Hello out there. This is your dynamic nurse, Alexis. So, the thing is, I am going to be focusing my topic today on nurses. And the title of my topic today is going to be the hidden struggles of nurses. The battle that's behind every smile of the nurse you see. So, behind every uniformed nurse you're seeing, there is a human. Yes, there is a human with emotions that also needs care. So before you judge a nurse, remember this. The person taking care of you or your relatives or your loved ones also may be fighting a battle nobody knows or nobody talks about. They don't even have time to talk about themselves, right? So I'm going to be basing my points on one, nurses are humans before they are professionals. Two, the emotional burden nobody talks about. And the struggle, three, the struggle to be perfect in whatever they do. So when I say nurses are humans, people often see nurses as strong, but nurses experience fear. They experience sadness, they experience exhaustion and stress. Also, nurses can comfort a dying patient and still be fighting something bigger than that. The thing is, when they wear the uniform, they just assume that responsibility and the professionalism behind being a nurse. But people don't see beyond that. So they judge the actions sometimes just maybe for something that has happened just one day. So we know that when it comes to nursing, we are dealing with lives. So we are really extremely careful. Sometimes we stress out. Emotionally, we are down. Have you imagined nursing a patient that you've become like so close to and this person passes? It's not just the loved ones that go through the pain. The the nurse also fights these emotions, also struggles to be strong, to stay strong. Secondly, the emotional burdens nobody talks about when it comes to nurses. So everybody thinks a nurse is supposed to be strong, supposed to be emotionally stable all the time, but no, we are humans. We are humans also. So we witness sufferings, loss, emergencies, and they celebrate recoveries. You see, the joy of a midwife when a new child is birthed. You see the joy of a midwife being able to bring this life. If it happens the other way around, they are as sad as the person that lost the child, even more, because at that time you feel you've not done enough. You question yourself, what would I have done differently? Then when it comes to emergency nurses and oncology nurses, the emotional drain and all, emergency nurses at that time, the utmost concern for them is for them to resuscitate that patient, that unconscious patient that has just come to you. So when you're doing all these things, emotionally you're drained, you're exhausted, and in as much as these things are going on, you still try to remain strong for the patients, because if a nurse allows the emotional part of him or her takes over, it's really difficult to carry out that activity as a nurse. Some patients leave the hospital, but their stories remain in our hearts. It remains in the heart of the nurses. It remains with the nurses forever. Then the third point is the pressure to always be perfect. Yes. You see, nurses, we want to be perfect. We want to make sure that we are able to deliver. We are able to get that person back to life. In as much as we are not miracle workers, but we still try our best to make sure we get the work done. So nurses are expected to know everything. When a patient walks into the hospital, she expects you to know where the doctor is. She expects you to know the pharmacy. She expects you to know what if the relative is going to survive. You're supposed to know that, right? So these are some of the responsibilities or some of the expectations of relatives and patients that may be beyond the nurses sometimes, but we are always there. We try as much as possible to support as much as possible, as much as we can. The responsibilities that in quotes is given to the nurses are sometimes huge, more than what they can even imagine. Sometimes they are expected to know if a doctor prescribes a medication. They are expected to know that medication, no matter how it is written. They expect you to know how the medication is going to be taken, how it's going to work, and you're expected to know all this, right? Yes, you're expected to know all this. And most times, some diagnoses that the patient doesn't understand, the nurse is like a more reliable source for them, or a more comforting source for them to come to get more informations. So many things are being expected from a nurse, which you are supposed to know. Behind every confident nurse is someone who studied, struggled, who cried, who learned, and kept showing up. That is who a nurse is. They don't back down because of difficulties. But the thing is, I am here to remind you that behind all this is a human who also needs to be cared for. That comes to my fourth point. Do these nurses need support? And who supports the nurses? The profession becomes stronger when nurses mentors each other. You're not there to you don't want to you're not there to compete or to outshine each other. You're there to complement each other in whatever you're doing as a nurse, as a mentor, as an advocate. Remember that the nurses are left sometimes to cater for themselves. So when nobody is there to support you, you take it as a responsibility as a nurse to support yourselves. Nobody supports the nurse more than the nurses. Know that. So remember that we are stronger together. The profession becomes very strong when nurses mentor themselves, when nurses are there to support each other instead of doing things or wanting to pull each other down. We should share knowledge, because if one person knows it all, the facility suffers. If majority of the nurses know what to do, then the community is in a better hand, right? So instead of pulling each other down, instead of doing things to make sure you outshine each, it is not necessary. We should share knowledge. We should share opportunities. For new nurses today, they could become tomorrow leaders. So as a leader, if you're placed there as a leader, you're there to mentor You're not there to destroy. You're not there to hinder the progress of others. And you see that language that keep coming up, because you went through stuff does not mean that the nurses that are coming after you should go through the same thing. If you are a leader, lead with example, lead to the extent of getting nurses better, making them to stand out. Present your nurses, because one thing we should know is the way you present your nurses is the way you're being looked at, because you are also a nurse. Despite the qualifications, despite the titles, a nurse is a nurse at the end of the day. So for me today, to the future nurses, remember you are also going to be a leader one day. So do not allow your past to determine how you're going to lead. When a nurse is down, let there be nurses to lift the person up and not bring the person down the more. Nurses should not only be caregivers, they should also be advocates, educators, innovators, and voices for change. And that is what I stand for all the time. We should advocate for each other while we are advocating for the patients. Because at the end of the day, who fights for the nurse? We have to stand up as nurses to begin to lend our voices for nurses. Who takes care of the nurse when nobody is there? In the silent rooms where the nurses go to cry, who takes care of them? So you should be a voice of change. You should be someone that is there to uplift nurses and not to pull them down. Because you pulling a nurse down is also you pulling yourself down. So to every nurse that is watching this, your work matters. Your voice matters. Your impact goes beyond the hospital walls. Remember to take care of yourself. And nurses, don't just be nurses for the patients, be nurses for your nurses also. Thank you very much.